I will talk about the different types of preservatives we have in the baking industry and also in the food industry. Now, yesterday I listed out different types of preservatives we have, although this is not all, but these are the most important preservatives you would find in the baking industry or in the food industry. And in this video, I would take these preservatives one after the other. I would explain to you when to use each of these preservatives, how to use the preservatives, and the right measurements to use for these preservatives. Let's say you want to make a cake. What is the measurement, or what is the right amount of proportion to add into your cake batter or your pastry batter? Now we're going to be taking these preservatives one after the other. For today, I'm going to be treating these preservatives known as calcium propionate. It's a type of preservatives that we can use in the baking industry or in our baked goods and even drinks. We have potassium sorbate, we have sodium benzoate, we have sorbic acid, we have vinegar, we have ascorbic acid, we have simple syrup, and we have citric acid. Now, I cannot state the importance of all these preservatives in one video. I'm going to take these preservatives one after the other. So make sure you watch this video to the end in order to have a full understanding of all these preservatives. Now, the first preservatives I'll be talking about is the word calcium propionate. After talking about the calcium propionate, for just this video alone, or for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk about calcium propionate. I'm going to tell you the amount or the right amount to add into your cakes, your pastries, when to add it, what makes your cake to spoil easily, or what makes your cake to go stale easily. I'm going to also teach you that in this video. So make sure you watch to the end so that you'll be able to grab this information. And if this is what you have been looking for, please make sure you like this video, share this video with your friends, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Top Star Confectionery, and let's get right into the video. Why did I choose to talk about calcium propionate? I chose to talk about calcium propionate because calcium propionate is the most commonly used preservative in the baking industry and also in the food industry. Now, one person might ask, or one might ask, or a lay baker or a lay person might ask, what is calcium propionate? Calcium propionate is simply a preservative that prevents molds and bacteria from growing in our cakes. Now, somebody might ask, how does it prevent molds and bacteria from growing in our cakes? Now, if you check, you will notice that when you bake a cake, or when you make a particular pastries, you would notice that within 3 days or 4 days, it begins to spoil. You begin to see some kind of, let's say, green particles or white particles on the cake or pastries. Now, with calcium propionate would help you would help to make your cakes or your baked products to stay fresh for a very long time. So this is the work of calcium propionate. So if you are a baker, now somebody might ask, how do I get calcium propionate? Calcium propionate is found in any baking shop. If you go to any baking shop, tell them to give you calcium propionate, or just tell them to give you preservative. Now, there's a company that produces this calcium propionate. It's called Dependox. It's a company that produces, or it's a brand that produces this calcium propionate. You can buy it in packets. You can also buy it in tines. Some persons normally tie 100 naira on, so you can just buy it and also put into your cakes and pastry. The second question I normally get about calcium propionate is that people normally ask, or some bakers would ask you, how do we use calcium propionate? What can you add, or where can you put calcium propionate? You can put your calcium propionate in your cakes, in your buns, in your bread, pastries, meat pie, like in so many, just in pastries. Exactly, you can put it in your pastries, in your snacks, in your cakes. That is where you can put your calcium propionate. The third question is, how does calcium propionate prevent your cakes, your pastries, your snacks from spoiling? There are so many ways it can prevent your cakes and pastries from spoiling, but I don't want to go through the scientific explanation, but I will just go through the layman's explanation. The simplest method in which calcium propionate helps your cake to stay fresher for long is that when you put it inside your product or inside your pastries, it reacts with those ingredients in your pastries or in your cakes by stopping it or preventing molds and bacteria from growing. Now let me tell you something you don't know. Once you make your cakes and pastries, there are already bacteria flying around the air. There are already bacteria on your hands and even in the nylon that will perch on that cake or pastries. Once it perches on that cakes or pastries, it will now begin to multiply. But when you add calcium propionate, what happens is that it goes into your cakes and pastries, thereby preventing those bacteria and those bacteria and molds from spreading in your cakes or in your pastries. Now it's just like taking in antibiotics into your body. Now when you take in antibiotics, it goes into your body to fight germs and bacteria. This is also what calcium propionate does to your cakes and pastries. Besties, if you are still watching this video, please support me by liking this video, share this video with your friends, subscribe to my YouTube channel at 12 Star Confectionery, and if you have any question, please don't hesitate to drop your questions at the comment section. I'll be there to reply to all your questions. The fourth question is, where does this bacteria, fungi and molds come from? Because some of you might say, after baking my cakes, I make sure I keep it in a clean environment, I make sure I handle my cakes properly, I package my cakes, my pastries properly. So where are these organisms, where are these bacteria coming from that always spoils our cake? No matter how you handle your cake, no matter how you handle your pastries, within 4 to 3 days, within 3 to 4 days, your cakes or pastries would go bad. Do you understand? So you need calcium propionate to prevent those bacteria, to prevent those microorganisms, to prevent those fungi and molds from increasing, thereby making your cakes and pastries go bad. Now I'm asking, or some persons are asking, where are these bacteria coming from? Number one, the best places where bacteria and molds or fungi can come and destroy our cakes is air. The air around you. Now normally the air around us is mostly contaminated. Do you understand? So after baking your cakes and when you expose your cakes to air, most of all those bacteria, microorganisms, they tend to perch on our cakes or on our pastries. Now when they perch on those cakes and pastries, it will begin to multiply if you don't add calcium propionate into that particular cake. Number two, another way bacteria or parasites can go into our cakes or pastries is the way we handle our cakes and snacks. That is why it is always good to wash your hands before you handle your baked goods like your cakes, your snacks, your breads and whatsoever. And also the third place most of these bacteria that makes our cakes and pastries to spoil, where they can come from, is from our packaging, from our nylon, from the carton. Do you understand? Those carton, those nylon you use to package your products, those bacteria can come into it and it will make your baked products to begin to spoil easily. And also where these bacteria and these microorganisms can come from also is from the ingredients, the sugar you buy from the market, the flour you buy to make your cakes. Do you understand? Those ingredients you buy, some of those bacteria, some of those fungi are found in those ingredients, and when you use it to bake your cakes, you will notice that it begins to multiply, and as it is multiplying, you will notice that your cakes and pastries begins to spoil. So that is how these bacteria come into your cakes and pastries to spoil your cake. Please make sure you like this video and please make sure you watch to the end, because I'm not also going to tell you about calcium propionate. I'm also going to tell you the right measurements to add into your cakes and pastries to prevent it from spoiling. So let's get right into the next question. Okay, besties, here is the trick. Now somebody might ask, what is the measurement I need to add into my cakes or into my pastries in order for it to last longer, in order for it to stay fresh for a longer time? Now I want to take to your notice, or I want to bring to your notice that, or take notes that it is not even about adding these preservatives into your cakes or your snacks. The most important thing is, how do you store your cakes? Some of you, even after adding all these preservatives, you also go ahead to keep your cakes and snacks what? In a very hot place, in a very humid place. Now, you will not allow these preservatives to work effectively. So please, even after putting this preservative, please make sure where you are keeping your snacks, your cakes, it is in a what? A cool environment, a dry environment, so that you will enable your preservative to work more properly. Now, what is the amount of preservatives to add into your cakes and pastries? The amount is very important. Do you know why? Because one, if you add too little, it won't be effective. If you add too much of this preservative into your cakes or pastries, you would notice that what? You would notice that your cake or your pastries begin to taste very soapy, or it will change the flavor of the cake, or it can even make your cake to what? To be very strong. It can also change the texture of your cake. So you need to be very, very careful. And that is why, as a baker, you need to have a scale. You need to have a scale in your studio. So the amount of preservative you are meant to add in your cake depends on the what? Depends. I just took a little bit of water in order to refresh my throat. Now, what is the amount of preservatives to add into your cake? This particular measurement I'm giving you is only what? Is only attached to calcium propionate. I will still give you the measurement for potassium sorbate. I will still explain potassium and all this, but for now, this is calcium propionate. So for you to add calcium propionate preservative into your cake, all you need is 0.1% to 0.3% of the what? Of the weight of the flour. Do you understand? Don't worry, even though you don't understand, I've already made everything simple. If you are working with, let's say for instance, you're baking a cake and your flour measurement calls for 250 grams, the amount of preservative to add into that 250 grams of flour is what? 0.5 grams or 0.25 grams. Now, 0.5 grams is what? Is the recommended amount to add into a 250 kg of flour. But if you add 0.25 grams, it is like the maximum amount. So you need to keep on, as you are adding, you need to keep on tasting it to show that, to know if it has changed the taste of your cake. But if you don't want to take any risks, just adding 0.5, maybe next time you also try 0.6, but the limit is 0.5 to 0.25. Now, for 500 grams of flour, the preservative you need is 1.0 grams to 1.5 grams, but the recommended one is 1.0 grams, or if you like, you can also add 1.5 grams, but make sure you taste your cake, because if you add over, you would notice that what? Your cake begin to taste very salty, it tastes soapy, and it can also make your cake to grow stronger. But let's say for instance you want to bake 1 kg of cake with one, that is your flour measurement is 1 kg. So the amount of preservative you need is what? 2.5 to 3 grams of preservative. That is why it is important to have a scale as a baker. So please, if you don't have a scale, go and get a scale. But don't worry, I will also convert this into teaspoon measurements for those that don't have a scale. So if you are making for 250 grams, the teaspoon measurement, I will need to look into my book to check the teaspoon measurement. So if you are working with 250 grams, the teaspoon measurement you need is 3/16 teaspoon. If you are working with 500 grams, the teaspoon you need is 3/8 teaspoon. And if you are working with 1 kg, you need 3/4 teaspoon. So, and it is sometimes hard to get these teaspoons I just mentioned. That is why you should invest in a very good scale. So please, if you have any question, drop your question at the comment section. I'll be there to reply to all your questions. Thank you so much. I hope you understand everything about calcium propionate, and in my next video I will teach you how to use potassium sorbate and others, and how to use them, their measurement. But for today we are done with calcium. Calcium propionate. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your likes, thank you for your comments. I really appreciate. I love you all. Bye.